Good morning. It's great to be here. Starting to get some fall weather that we've sorely lacked this year. My name is Joe Slavens, and for 25 years, I would have started this gathering by introducing myself as President and CEO of Northwest Bank and Trust Company. I'm now pleased to introduce myself as the Chief Executive Officer of Tower Trust and Investment Company. As many of you know, Northwest Bank and Trust Company was sold at the end of the year, and as a part of that process, we've been planning for years for that to take place, and that we made the decision that we wanted to continue to be in the trust business. And so, as a part of that process, we created Tower Trust and Investment Company. And the same team, same relationships that we've had for years, same computer system, we didn't have to do any conversions. Same great relationships that we've had, and most, the same staff. And really, the history of that goes back to about 1969, when my father formed Northwest Bank and Trust Company's trust department. So, while in one sense we are a very young company, the relationships that we have been built over the last 55 or 56 years, and they're really based upon two things: family and trust. If any of you come up to the Tower Trust offices, I'd invite you to come back to my office. Just outside of it, we have a mural that talks about the history of our family and its involvement in businesses in the Quad Cities, and that our businesses are built on a legacy of strong family values, family ownership. We have a team that behaves as family, that treats each other like family, and we take care of families at Tower Trust and Investment Company throughout the Quad Cities, quite frankly, around the country and throughout the world. We have international clients as well. And what's really important also to family, the other sort of important word as I was thinking about the transition that we've been through, is the word trust. We have a trust department for years. We have trust in our name. And what is important about trust is that we are fiduciary. And there are very, very few organizations that act as a fiduciary. What does that mean? I'm an attorney by training. I could go on and have my staff nervous now that I'm going to talk for 30 minutes about what it means to be a fiduciary. But it's this simple. You treat other people's things, money, financial resources, as if they are your own. And there's a very limited number of folks. That doesn't apply to stockbrokers. That doesn't apply to registered investment advisors. It applies to trustees, trust companies, trust departments. And we're very honored and very pleased to have that high level of standard that we deliver to the folks with whom we have a relationship. I talked a minute ago about our staff. We've had a great staff, a lot of strong people over the years. We've never been stronger in terms of the people that we have. And that's a great credit to the guy that I'm going to introduce next, Cody Allen. Cody's been with us for about 19 years. We've been with the family businesses for about 19 years. I remember when he came to the organization, I think he was 26 or 27 years old. And I thought, oh my God, is he young? And he never had the chance to meet my dad, but I remembered something. I was very fortunate, with my uncle and my grandmother and my father, a lot of lessons that they taught me. One of the lessons that my father had was that if the only thing that gives you concern about someone is that they're young, time will take care of that. And indeed, time has taken care of that. Cody started out in business development, became involved in administration and operations, ultimately became the senior trust officer at Northwest Bank and Trust Company, a member of the executive team there. And so when we launched the trust company, we thought it only fitting and appropriate that he be named president and chief operating officer. Again, honored to have him lead the team that we have at the Tower Trust. He's a graduate of Clark College. He grew up on a farm. He played college basketball and had a good time. He's married to his sweetheart from college, Kim. They have a great family. And so with no further ado, it's my honor to introduce to you and turn the podium over to Cody Allen, President and Chief Operating Officer of Tower Trust and Investment Company.
When I first joined the organization, Joe used to say, actually, whenever we had a meeting, I always walk out shaking his hand. And he goes, eventually we're going to have to get accustomed enough to each other that you don't have to shake my hand every time we leave a meeting. But I was scared at that time. Like you said, I was 26 years old. So thank you, Joe, for the opportunity to give today's introduction for Steve. Before I introduce Steve and give you his credentials, and his credentials are amazing, I think we've really got a great speaker, and he's going to do a great job educating us today. I just want to spend just another moment or two talking about what a trust department is and what our trust department accomplishes for folks. So our trust department, right now, we manage a little over $500 million in assets. Actually, we're closing in on $600 million in assets. As Joe mentioned, we have clients within 20 different states, overseas. We have quite a footprint, but everything starts here in the Quad Cities. And we're proud of that, and we're proud of what we've accomplished in the team that we've developed right here in the Quad Cities. A trust department really covers, I call it 3 stages of life. And when I talk about those stages of life, I talk about, quite simply, the first stage of life is we manage money for people. We have folks come to us for their IRAs, their 401ks, their investment accounts, their inherited wealth, the proceeds of their farm sale, the proceeds of their business sale, and we manage that money for them. And we do that in a variety of different ways. You know, we have that individual can't sleep at night if they have anything to do with the stock market, and we have clients that understand the other side of that. So that first phase of life is we manage money for folks, and seeing a lot of friendly faces and familiar faces here in the crowd, we do that for a lot of folks in the crowd today. The second phase of life is when we really step into that traditional trust department role. We call it the incapacity phase of life or the complete financial management phase of life. In that phase of life, we take care of more than just taking care of the investments. We will pay folks' bills. We'll make sure the quarterly estimates are paid. The tax returns are done. The farm lease is renewed. The home is looked after here in the Quad Cities when somebody goes down to Florida for 6 months out of the year. We take care of those roles, whether it be as someone's power of attorney or their trustee. It's at that point in time where they can't take care of things on their own, and we're proud that we're able to do that for them. The third phase of life, when we move past that second phase of life, the third phase is the legacy side. The idea that somebody has passed away and they need somebody to settle the estate. Whether it be a will-based estate plan or a trust-based estate plan, we'll finish it from start to finish. And we have some unique stories that we've accomplished over the years to make sure estates are settled here in the Quad Cities for our clients. But we do it with a great staff. We've got an experienced team. They're a disciplined team. They're a focused team, compassionate team, and it really works great. So if you ever wonder what a trust department is, you know, that's my 3 phases that I talk about when it comes to a trust department. So a few other items. We have a couple of items on the table. We've got a folder in there that has a little information about us as an organization. We also have a little checklist in there that talks a little bit about the idea of some conversations you should be having with your family, your spouse, about what if something happens to us and we're gone, or we're not able to handle our own affairs. Have we talked to our spouse? Have we talked to our kids? We say it a lot when it comes to the estate planning side of the world. Organization and communication. So use that little sheet in there that talks about preparedness to make sure that you're squared away and you have your plans in place with those types of conversations, because communication and organization will solve an awful lot when it comes to estate planning. The other item that's on the table is we have a sign-up sheet. If you're interested in receiving a link to today's program, we're recording the program, and we'll make sure we send you that link. It's going to be on our website, so please put your email address on there, and we will shoot that link out to you when it's available here in a couple weeks. So we'll make sure that goes out the door to you as well. So without further ado, let's introduce the man of the hour here. So Steve Wiseman. I'm going to give you a little background on Steve. And I was joking with Steve earlier, when I started listing all the different news programs he's been on, it might be easier for me to list the programs he's not been on, because it's quite numerous. But let's give it a try anyway. So Steve is a graduate of the University of Massachusetts and Boston College of Law. Steve has been a faculty member of Bentley University since 1998. Presently, he is a senior lecturer and teaches white-collar crime. Steve has been a columnist for USA Today, as he wrote about issues of cybersecurity, scams, identity theft. He is presently a columnist for Saturday Evening Post and Forbes magazine. He is also a member of the panel of experts for the Bottom Line publications. He has frequently appeared as an expert on the following channels. All right, so if you need to take a drink and go through these, here we go. It's CBS News, CNN, Fox, ABC, NBC, NPR, PBS, CNBC, MSNBC, Newsmax, New England Cable News, and has been quoted in numerous publications, including the Boston Globe, Barron's, New York Times, Money Magazine, Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal. It's pretty much everything that I've read or seen, so if there's anything else out there you know, let me know. So the idea, he even appeared, this is also a fun fact, I have not seen this video yet, but he has also appeared as an expert on scams on the Dr. Phil show. There might be a question we have to ask about how that went when we go through it. He has authored 10 books, including 50 Ways to Protect Your Identity and Your Credit, The Truth About Avoiding Scams, and 50 Ways to Protect Your Identity in a Digital Age, Identity Theft, and A Guide to Elder Planning. Steve has also testified before a U.S. Senate Selection Committee on Aging and how AI is affecting senior scams. Please join me in welcoming Steve.
Good to be with you today. You know, it's always a temptation when I have a mic like this. Yeah, but no. So I apologize off the bat. When it comes to fraud and scams, I'm here to tell you that things aren't as bad as you think. They are far worse. According to the FTC, Americans' losses to fraud and scams were $12.5 billion. It's a lot of money. However, that number is probably well understated because a lot of us, just because of embarrassment, do not report it. And then the FTC estimates that it's about $48.4 billion lost last year. And let's make things worse. With artificial intelligence aiding the scammers, the problem is going to be even worse in the years as we come by. So let's look at, why are we susceptible to scams? And one of the things you want to look at is anybody, absolutely anybody, can be a victim of scams. Of course, throw it out. When it comes to investment scams, who scammed more, men or women? Anyone take a guess? Men, we think we know what the hell we're doing. And, ooh, there's a shiny thing there, I want it. No, women are better. Well, she'll never hear it, except for my wife. Her idea of investment is, ooh, the market's doing terribly, I want to sell. Ooh, the market's doing really high, I want to buy. And wonders, why does that work out? But in any event, it's let's blame some of our susceptibility on evolution and a part of our brain called the amygdala, sometimes called the reptilian brain. And this was formed early, and it's an instinctual thing for us to react to emergencies. And so we don't logically think something through. The emergency comes up, and it may be in an email or phone call or text message or whatever. And so we fall for that. Now, in addition to that, there's also a part of our brain, and it's interesting, too, to be out here in Iowa for me for the first time, because I've mentioned this many times. The University of Iowa was the first college to do studies in regards to the aging brain. And as we age, and I'm talking about myself, a part of our brain that deals with skepticism becomes less viable. So we seniors are the perfect target for scammers. Of course, when I teach white-collar crime and scams at Bentley University, I tell them the second most scammed group is the Generation Z, the college kids, who are just trust everything they see online and get scammed. So let's look at some of the common scams. So investment scams are always big, and affinity fraud is one that often works out with investments. So what's an affinity fraud? An affinity fraud, it's when we trust, one of my mottos is trust me. You can't trust anybody. And affinity fraud is where we trust people like us. So who are like us? Well, it depends on, it can be a member of your church. It can be a member of a social group. It can be a racial identity. It can be anything that you have an identity with that person, and we put our trust down. A lot of Jewish people put their trust in an investment advisor named Bernie Madoff. It didn't work out quite so well. Recently in Colorado, there was a minister, Eli Regalado, close friend of God. God told him to create a cryptocurrency platform, and he told him that your parishioners will just make millions. So his parishioners did invest with him. They trusted him. The whole thing was a fraud, and he was convicted of fraud, but his parishioners lost millions. In my own experience, I was a talk radio host for 25 years. Actually, you can imagine how proud my parents were. I was a lawyer and a talk radio host. They used to say that I was a used car dealer in jail. It sounded better. But in any event, so Brad Blight was a guy I worked with in radio, and he was an investment advisor. And he was also a Ponzi schemer. As a matter of fact, I was with him the night he was going to get caught, or the night before he was going to get caught, and he knew he was going to get caught. The thing with a Ponzi scheme is the money comes in, you got to keep having that money come in, not go out. And because one of his major investors was requesting to take money out, he wasn't going to have the money to do that. So he decided to commit suicide. So he was sending out 3 FedEx packages. His wife was a TV reporter, and we were in Boston that night. He lived somewhere miles away, so his wife wasn't going to be home that evening. So he sent a FedEx to his wife, a confession. He sent out a FedEx to the Securities and Exchange Commission, and one to the local police in Manchester by the Sea, where he had his wealthy, ill-gotten home. So he decided the way he's going to do it is he's going to get a bunch of Ambien. He's going to wash that down with a lot of vodka, and he's going to go into his garage and turn on the Porsche and go to sleep. Unfortunately, he got the order not done so well. So he got the vodka part. He's staggering drunk. He falls, hits his head on a pool table, and ends up temporarily paralyzed, which is where he was on the floor with, remember it's FedEx, at 10:05 the next morning. The police come in and they're saying, "We found the body," and "I'm not dead yet." But Ponzi, the affinity fraud is something we just see so much, and again, we just can't trust people. Pump and dump. You know, there's so many scams that have been around for a lot of years, and they just get updated with technology. So the pump and dump, there used to be, maybe it was a fax or a phone call that you would get that was supposedly not even meant for you, but it's telling you about some inside information about a stock that is just going to soar. Now, generally, these are done with penny stocks, small capitalized stocks that they're able to move the market. People buy these stocks, they think they're getting something great. The scammers who have bought these stocks at what they were really worth wait, the price goes up as the people buy it, and then when it's at its height, they sell out, the truth comes out, and boom, the stock plummets. So this is one that has been updated now. There'll be chat rooms, there'll be emails, there'll be text messages, and people do fall for them. Now, my favorite was a few years ago, I was on vacation, and I don't go on vacation that much, but I can always predict that as soon as I'm on vacation, I'm going to get a call from some big breaking story. So CBS calls, JP Morgan was hacked, and had a data breach, and all that they got, they didn't get account information, they got the names of people and email addresses. And I said, what are they going to do with that? And I didn't know, so I bullshitted my way through. What the hell? So basically what I said was they're going to use that information to target them for spear phishing. Spear phishing is where you get an email about something and some scam or whatever, but it isn't really targeted to you. Your name's not used. You may not even have a relation to it. But spear phishing is where they got information about you. And sure enough, they got emails from American brokers who were part of a joint scam with Russian hackers. And they told the Russian hackers, get the names of customers of JP Morgan. We're going to send them these pump and dump emails. And during the trial, they were all caught and convicted. It was kind of interesting. There was an email from one Russian hacker to another. He said, why would an American buy stock just because they got an email? And the other said, Americans buy stock like we drink vodka. But the bottom line is, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't be drinking the vodka, but whatever. But the pump and dump is there. Of course, cryptocurrency scams. And cryptocurrency, here again, people shouldn't be investing in things that they don't know. And too often we do that. One of the things is you combine cryptocurrency and AI. There was a YouTube video, which is where I always go for investment. All right. So a YouTube video, and there was the CEO of this company who is using AI to invest in crypto, and it's promising, 500% great, great, great. And people were falling for it. The only AI was that CEO wasn't a real person. He was created by AI, and they had absolutely nothing, but people fell for it. And one of the things we say with an investment, you have to know with whom you are investing, and you have to know the investment. You know, just last week, a $7 billion Ponzi scheme was busted, and a Chinese woman who had migrated to the UK was sentenced, and she had scammed a wide variety of people. If anyone as a cryptocurrency expert with her company was not licensed for investments. She had no licensing or knowledge, and if anyone had looked into any of those things, they wouldn't have been scammed. Lottery scams. It's tough to win a lottery. It's even tougher to win one that you haven't entered. But one of the things that we often hear, and I testified before the Senate about it, is the Jamaica lottery is a big one. You get a phone call, an email that you've won the Jamaican lottery, but you have to pay some income taxes. You have to pay some administrative fees. The one kind of catch here is you do owe income taxes on lottery winnings, but the thing is you never pay that to the lottery. They either deduct it like Powerball from your winnings, or you're bound to pay that on your own. So no legitimate lottery is ever going to be asking for funds from you. Now I mentioned Ponzi's. That's him right there. However, I'm going to talk to you about blatant sex discrimination, which I'm a very firm believer. My sister used to say that I was a male chauvinist, and I said, that's not correct. And then I did some pro bono legal work for a women's group, and I got a commendation. It said, sensitive to the needs of women. I said, see? And she said, no, you just fooled them. But here's the gender discrimination. Sarah Howe was a woman in Boston, which also is where Charles Ponzi was from, says something about we Bostonians, who in the 1870s started the Women's Only Bank, promising 6% per month at a time when interest rates were really, really low. And it was a total Ponzi scheme. And I think it's terrible that she doesn't get the credit that she deserves. She was convicted, went to prison, came out. Anyone want to guess what she did when she got out of prison? She did it again, yep. Persistent woman. So the next thing I want to talk to you about, though, is imposter scams, because imposter scams are huge. The most common scams are imposter scams, according to the FTC, $2.95 billion last year. And here's where they pose as the Social Security Administration, the FBI, Netflix, Amazon, anyone that you may have something to do with. Now, just last summer, there was a woman, Rachel Smith, in Nashville, and she gets a call from the Border Patrol in El Paso, Texas. A package had been seized containing illegal drugs, and someone was using her name down there for illegal purposes. So they told her all of her funds are going to be frozen. So what she needed to do was she needed to transfer those funds to the federal officers through a Bitcoin ATM. You're familiar with Bitcoin ATMs? They look just like a regular ATM. You put money in, and it goes into a Bitcoin account. She did it. Of course, it was a total scam, and the money was lost. And one of the things is, you look at your caller ID, and a lot of scams come in on the phone. And so maybe the phone is showing the FBI. Maybe it's showing the local court for a jury. Something called spoofing. It's a very, very simple, easy technique by which the scammer, or you or I or anyone, it's actually not illegal to spoof as long as you're not doing it for illegal purposes, can make their phone number look as whatever number they want. And so it looks really legit. And so you get that, and it, again, that emergency. And the emergency for you to provide personal information, the emergency for you to make a payment, to click on a link which may download malware. Okay, I've got good security software, so it's going to protect my computer and my phone. Not so much. We have what are called zero-day defects. And zero-day defects are vulnerabilities that have not yet been discovered. So the most up-to-date security software is never going to be totally up-to-date for these zero-day defects. So it's important to have your security software. It's also important to update it as soon as you can, but you got to remember that it's not going to be perfect. Now, see, when we talk about updating security software, I don't know how many of you, like me, were members or victims of the Equifax data breach. Equifax, one of the major credit reporting agencies. And they had a huge data breach. And the thing is, no matter how good we are at protecting our personal information, we're only as safe as the places with the weakest security. So Equifax was done in by a vulnerability in a type of software they used called Apache. Apache had issued a patch months earlier, but Equifax didn't get around to downloading it. I remember hearing them testify, and I was talking to my television when the guy testifying for Congress said, well, when it came in, the guy who was in charge of that wasn't there that day. And I'm going, the guy? But in any event, I was an expert witness in one of the class actions against Equifax, just very, very happy to do that. We also have the missing jury duty scam. We've all probably had that. You get a call or a text message that indicates that you have missed jury duty. You need to make a payment, provide your social security number to confirm, but otherwise you're going to be going to jail. Now, recently in Georgia, there was a guy, Anthony Sanders, was indicted on charges that he was running one of these jury duty scams. And he called this one woman in Florida, told her that she needed to pay $12,000 through a bonding transition center. That bonding transition center was a Bitcoin ATM. The thing that was kind of interesting was not so much that she fell for it, but the law enforcement had a very easy time finding Saunders, because he was already doing time in a Georgia state prison where someone had taken a drone and dropped a phone in there to him to be able to do the scam. Also, looking at Medicare open enrollment. Today is the first day of Medicare open enrollment. This is the time when, between now and December 7th, when you can make changes to your plans. And this is the time when you may get bombarded with all kinds of text messages, emails, phone calls about your plans, what they're offering. We need your Medicare number in order to update. You don't give your Medicare number away, although it's a little bit better. You know, before we used to have our Social Security numbers as the Medicare numbers. Medicare was the last to change that. The thing to avoid any of these supplemental insurance scams or whatever is either go right to Medicare, and you can go to their website for help, or right here in Iowa and just about all the states have something called SHIP, the State Health Insurance Assistant Program. And you go to the SHIP website and you get real people that will help you with this. The government shutdown. Anything that's in the news, the scammers are going to be looking at as a way of scamming us. So if you're getting any kind of a benefit, you may get an email that says government shutdown notice or benefit suspensions. And the thing here is the federal government is not going to be contacting you about any kind of payment or anything having to do with the shutdown. You always have to confirm. Again, you know, it's the trust me, you can't trust anyone. Romance scams. You know, these are quite huge. And actually, most of them now are coming from social media. But Senators Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire and Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee have recently sent a letter to the Match Group, which owns the dating apps Tinder, Hinge, and OkCupid, looking for answers to the facts that it appears that their algorithms are actually enhancing the scammers. And interestingly enough, today also is the day that they had as their deadline to get that information back. Now, you know, it used to be that you would look at the photos that would be given in a romance scam, and you can use image searching sites like TinEye and look and see if that if that picture has been used before, and many times you would find that it was. But again, with things aren't as bad as you think; they're far worse. In particular, there's a Nigerian cybercrime group called the Yahoo Boys. And what the Yahoo Boys are doing is they're using AI and voice cloning and deepfakes. So now that Nigerian is going to look and sound exactly like whomever he wants to appear as, and it's going to be very, very difficult. So you certainly have to be careful about anyone that falls in love with you so fast, and then there's suddenly an emergency where they need some money. Or they may even send you money. You know, I'm having trouble wiring some money here. I'm going to wire it to you, and you wire it wherever. What they're doing is they're using you to launder money, and you become an accessory after the fact. But a big problem since 2019 is what we call pig butchering. And pig butchering it started in China, where they called it shazupan. And these are often done through romance scams where they build that trust and relationship. And then they say, you know what? I've got this great cryptocurrency investment. You should do it. Here's the site you can go to, put the money in, and they'll put money in, and guess what? It looks like the records are showing that it's getting bigger and bigger. Thing is, there is no investment. And so you put the money in, and as soon as they feel they have enough, they empty it. It's gone. The grandparent scam, or the family emergency scam, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. Actually, this was one of the things I went on the Dr. Phil show to discuss. And they had called me like on a Monday, and I didn't believe it anyway. And they said, would you be able to come in next Monday? And yeah, sure. And then it's Friday, and I hadn't even heard of it. He goes, whatever. And then Saturday, okay, here are your tickets, show up. But there are people, you get the call, and it's the middle of the night, and it can be from the grandchild. It can be another family member, anyone with an emergency, but they get you, you know, when you're a little bit disoriented. I need you to send money, or sometimes a credit card, gift cards. Anytime you see a gift card, it's a scam. So as bad as it is, first of all, how do they know? One of the things I used to love the Big Bang Theory. And Sheldon would call his grandmother Meemaw. And I only know a few people that use Meemaw. But if you're a Meemaw and you get that call in the middle of the night and they call you Meemaw, you're going to trust it. Well, how do they know that? Blame your kids. Blame your grandkids. Because what they're doing is they're putting too much information on social media. And the scammers are harvesting this information from social media, from obituaries, and they get all kinds of personal information. They also may even know, hey, maybe your grandchild is on vacation during break someplace, and so they're going to call you and say that. So you really have to be careful with that. And now it's even worse, because with the voice cloning, 15 to 30 seconds of audio is all they need to have that voice be the exact voice of your child or your grandchild. And this is something now where you can't tell who's on the other end. So what I advise people to do is have a safe word. And if someone doesn't know that safe word, then it's definitely not going to be your grandchild. Tech support scams. This is something that's a big problem, particularly for consumers 60 and older. We're 5 times more often victimized than people between their 20s and 30s and 40s. About $1.5 billion in tech support scams. And the most common one starts with a pop-up on your computer. It may even freeze your computer. And they'll also say, don't turn off your computer or it'll damage it. Turn off your computer. It won't damage it. It'll just get rid of that. But people are afraid. And then it'll have a number for you to call. Well, sometimes you call the number, we need remote access to your computer. No legitimate company is going to ask for remote access to your computer. The scammers do, because they go in there and they get all kinds of information from you, such as even credit cards or passwords, and make you a victim of identity theft. So it also, you're not going to have a pop-up from Apple. You're not going to have a pop-up from Microsoft. Only the scammers are going to be doing those pop-ups. I teach in Waltham, Massachusetts, and just about a month ago, there was a very lucky victim of one of these tech support scams who was told that he needed to bring $12,000 in cash to a Bitcoin ATM to send it to the scammers, who were the tech support people, who were going to fix his computer. Boy, I don't pay that much for my tech support, but I'm not telling my guy that. In any event, he had the luck that the Bitcoin ATM he was going to was right where an off-duty police officer was going to get gas. And he sees somebody walking over with a wad of cash, introduces himself, and was able to tell him not to put that in there. Identity theft. One of the biggest crimes now. And you know, if someone steals your identity, they can get at your bank accounts, your brokerage accounts, incur large debts, and it's a huge, huge problem. One of the biggest is income tax identity theft. With income tax identity theft, the scammer, what they do is they file an income tax return using your Social Security number, file it online, with a counterfeit W-2 for a huge, to get a huge refund. You file your return after that, and you've got to wait about a year before, and it's probably going to be worse this year, a year before you can actually get your return. So if we want to look at the glass half full, street crime in Tampa, Florida has actually gone down dramatically since the local gangs have gotten into income tax identity theft rather than street crime. So, you know, there's positive everything. What happens is, where do they even get these Social Security numbers? They go on the dark web. That part of the internet where criminals buy and sell goods and services. And they will buy lists of Social Security numbers that have been stolen or received gotten in data breaches, which is another reason why don't give your Social Security number out to everyone that asks for it just because they ask for it. My optometrist wanted my Social Security number when I went to get new glasses. And I'm not comfortable. I'm certainly not comfortable with his cybersecurity, and they were pretty good. Your doctors don't need it. Years ago, when I wrote my first book on identity theft, I used to see rumors on the internet saying, if you're asked for your Social Security number, give them Richard Nixon's. And the thing was, at that time, they had something, it sounded like something out of Star Wars, called the Master Death Index. And you could go in there and get the Social Security number of anyone who had died. So I went in there, and sure enough, the one floating around on the internet was Richard Nixon's, which you can get in my first book. Well, in any event, the thing is, you don't necessarily have to give it, and particularly to doctors and healthcare providers. They don't need it. And I say healthcare providers in particular because 41% of data breaches are in healthcare providers. And it makes sense because hospitals, for instance, they have to have access of insurance companies, of doctors, of labs, a lot of people coming in. So all you need is one weak link. Now, the good thing with the income tax identity theft is it can be readily avoided. So the IRS now has something called the PIN, the Identity Protection PIN opt-in program. And what you can do is you can go online. It's a pretty simple procedure. And you get a PIN each year to put on your tax return. And this way, no one is ever going to know your PIN. They may steal your Social Security number, but they're not going to be able to get the PIN. Anyone here work for the Social Security Administration? IRS? Okay, good. Those idiots. Here's the thing. We're talking about the criminals file a counterfeit W-2 from a phony employer who doesn't exist. Why doesn't the IRS look at those before sending out the refunds? The truth is, when employers send in the W-2s, they don't send them to the IRS. They send them to the Social Security Administration. And the Social Security Administration sends them, I was going to say immediately, in August to the IRS. All they would have to do is have them send to both and just check them out. Just a thought. Medical identity theft. This is an identity theft that actually can kill you. And the thing is, health insurance is very, very valuable to scammers. So they will try and steal your health insurance and sell it on the dark web to other criminals who will then sell it to other people. When this is done, we're gonna learn about it. You get that EOB, explanation of benefits. The most misnamed anything. Does anyone understand the explanation of benefits? I look at it, my eyes go down to the bottom right. Are they asking me to pay anything? No? All right, fine. But the problem is, if we don't really check to see is it something that we've incurred, the bad guys get to keep using our medical insurance. And here's where the harm comes. The criminal's information gets interspersed with your healthcare records. And so you could actually get a wrong blood transfusion as that information gets put into your records. No one here works for HIPAA, do they? All right. The idiots at HIPAA, what they do is, if you tell them, guess what, I'm a victim of medical identity theft, that is not my information on there, and they say, well, that's bad, except we can't take that off because that would violate the privacy rights of the identity thief. And if that makes sense to anyone, let me know. So be careful with that. You know, the thing is with data breaches, they're absolutely huge right now. And so try and limit the amount of information that you give to any entity. So where are we vulnerable? One of them is SIM swapping. And the subscriber identity module, SIM card. This is the guts of and brains of our phone. And when you get a new phone, what you do is you just call up and have them switch it into from your old phone into your new phone, and it's really easy. But where the SIM card can be a problem is use dual-factor authentication whenever you can. Because that way, even if your password is compromised, you're still going to be safe because they're not going to be able to get into your bank account without that dual-factor authentication. And the way that most often is done is you go in, you put in your password, and then the bank will send you a text message with like a 5-digit code. You put that in, you're good. So what these scammers do is they probably already managed to get your password, and that can be done in many ways. You may have even turned it over to them through a phishing or spear phishing email, or they could have gotten it in a data breach. But if you've got the dual-factor authentication, you're protected, or so you think. They then call your cell phone provider, and they just answer a simple security question, which the answer to which is something that they can get easily online, and they have the SIM card switched to their card. So they got the password, and now they've got your dual-factor authentication, and now they've got your bank account. So what you can do is, all of the major cell phone carriers, you can set up a PIN so that even if someone calls up, they can't do it over the phone unless they know the PIN. You can also do, I guess being in this business, I'm a bit paranoid, and even paranoids have enemies, and I use the belt and suspenders. Mine is my SIM card cannot be changed unless I'm in there personally, and I also do a PIN. The SIM swapping has been done a lot with cryptocurrency wallets, and they've managed to get people's money in that fashion. So definitely something to do is protect your phone that way. Text messages. You know, one of the things with text messages is that we're 90% more likely to open a text message than we are emails. Emails we open far less, and for some reason we just seem to trust them. So the thing is, you will get text messages from imposter scams, the FBI, a big one. Now, you guys don't have any toll roads here in Iowa, is that correct? Good for you guys. We do in Massachusetts and a lot of other states. And there was a big one going around nationally that was just exposed today. It's Chinese hackers sending out text messages that appear to come from what they call an easy pass for your toll that you owe money. And they've taken in $1 billion in the last 3 years. People, again, they trust it. And trust me, you can't trust anyone. Anytime you're asked for a payment or click on a link, download an attachment, or provide personal information, you can't do it unless you really, really confirm. And what about your bank text message? Now, first of all, you may actually have an agreement with your bank to send text message alerts, and that's a good thing. That bank text message alert is never going to ask you to click on a link, provide personal information, or download an attachment. So you always confirm it. Now, when I say confirm, it's my bank, maybe it's with my credit card or my bank. So I'll look at my phone number, the phone number on there, and I'll call it. Make sure you're dialing accurately. I'm old enough to remember to use the word dial. And the reason I say that is that the scammers will get phone numbers that are a digit off, just so people who make a mistake are going to go. One of the things as far as confirming in phones, PayPal had a scam out now where there's been a charge, call here for customer support if you need to dispute this charge. And if you call customer support for the scammers, you get great service. The person answers immediately. If you call the real PayPal customer service, dial 1 if you want this, dial 3 if you want that, dial 4 if you want that, and then more. But so, I mean, at least they give good service. Now with the text message scams, again, the big thing is you want to make sure that you don't provide any of that personal information. You have to confirm with anything. Internet of Things, and this is something, relatively new. And anything that's connected to the internet is part of the Internet of Things, and it can create problems. So in your home, your smart TV, you can be hacked through your smart TV. Someone can hack into your smart TV, and from your smart TV, get through your router into your computer and steal all that information. So one of the things that you want to look at is when you first of all, when you get your router, it comes with a default password. Change it, because these default passwords are out there, the scammers know them, and they can use that to get at your router. There are default passwords for your television, your smart TV, or anything Alexa or Siri. So you want to change those. And you also want to make sure on your router you can specifically network out your Internet of Things so that even if someone is able to get in there, they're not going to be able to get to your computer. The other thing is with our routers, they have an interesting capability that we don't use enough called whitelisting. Most of our security software, actually I shouldn't say most, all of our security software works on what they call blacklisting. The good guys find out what sites the bad guys are using, where they're coming from, and they block it. That's blacklisting. Whitelisting is nothing is allowed to come in unless you've approved it. So this is something on your home routers you may want to look at. Social media. According to the Federal Trade Commission, more scams are started on social media than any other platform. I did a column most recently for Forbes about a scam on Instagram it appeared to be Gisele Bündchen offering some free cosmetic cream. And all you had to do was pay for the shipping costs. It wasn't Gisele Bündchen, but the video was Gisele Bündchen, and the video was her speaking, but it was a deep fake. The thing is, when you get scams on social media, again, you got to go back to, I say that trust me, don't trust anyone. The cybersecurity people call this zero trust. And so you've got to confirm before you send anything. And so with social media, the thing is, you may get a clone of, say, a Facebook page of the person. So I've got this great deal, I've got this great investment, I've got a cryptocurrency, or here's a coupon you can use at Walmart or whatever. Thing is, when you get that, you don't know who's really sending it. The idea of scammers, they create websites in the names of people that already have them that you know. And you get this, I got it this week, an invitation to be a friend from a person who's already my friend. The other thing is, you may get something from a well-meaning friend who's already fallen for a scam. So use your privacy settings, first of all, to limit who sees what you post. And that's also part of the thing. Some of you may remember the old cartoon on the Sunday comics, Pogo. And what Pogo said was, we have met the enemy and he is us. We put too much information up on social media. And scammers harvest that information and use that to target us with all kinds of scams. And now it's even worse because with AI, it makes it even easier for them to do that. So phishing, phishing is where you get an email that appears to be from whomever. It can be, I remember I was at a destination wedding in Vegas, and I got a phishing email, and it had everything wrong, but my amygdala was going. First of all, I looked at the address. If I'd looked carefully at the address, I would have seen that the sender really wasn't Citizens Bank. But it had the logo. There was a problem with the account. I needed to respond immediately. And not being the brightest bulb, I go, oh, wait a minute, I don't have a Citizens Bank account. So with phishing, you can usually tell it's not the real deal. The Nigerian email letter, and if you've gotten one recently, they're absolutely beyond ludicrous now. So why would these people send out such ridiculous emails? Because they don't want to waste time with anyone who's not going to fall for it. So they're purposely even more ridiculous. But when it comes to phishing, spear phishing when they've gathered personal information. I have a son-in-law who plays in an Eagles tribute band. I like the Eagles. If I got something about the Eagles, I might be more likely to trust it. So you can't trust that. So we have vishing. And vishing is just phishing in text messages, which people trust even more. Smishing in text messages and vishing in voicemail and phone calls. And then we have QR codes, quishing. Now these QR codes have been around since about 1994. And you see them with parking meters and in restaurants. But where they're being used largely in scams and largely effectively in scams now is you get an email. Maybe it's from a company with which you do business. Maybe it's Netflix, maybe it's Amazon, whatever. We need you to reapply or respond and provide information again. Click on this QR code, which will take you to a website. The website will look totally legitimate. I once, did a holiday scam piece for NBC where we went to a Walmart website, and the Walmart website looked perfect. And then I took the domain name and went to a domain registry, which you can always do, called whois.com. Looked it up. I didn't realize that Walmart created their websites from Nigeria. So we knew immediately it was a scam that way, but not from the website itself. So what happens with the QR code is, you click on that, you provide the information, and you've turned it over to an identity thief. You may have good security software that is going to screen some of these phishing emails. They can't screen the QR codes, so this will look legitimate to them. So once again, you don't trust anybody. And the same thing with apps. Get your apps from the legitimate app stores. Get it from Google Play, get it from Apple, the official app stores. Apple rejected 1.7 million app submissions last year. Google said that it banned 173,000 designers. But even though they're going to be vetting these, even there you have to be careful. Look for references. Make sure that it is legitimate, because one of the things they do, the scammers, is they'll create one that doesn't have scam aspects to it. It gets approved, and then they just amend it, and in that way it's able to stay up there. And banking apps are huge. A lot of people use banking apps. There's one scam banking app in particular now that's quite insidious. What happens is you download it, you think you've got your legitimate app at whatever bank that you're using, and it recognizes when you use your legitimate app. So when you go to your legitimate app, this app will come on top. And so you'll be providing your password to the scammer. But then it's on top, but it goes through, so you actually go to your regular bank. So you don't realize it until they've used your password and managed to get to your account, which is another reason for using dual-factor authentication. And now we even have less sophisticated criminals doing these really sophisticated technical attacks. Because at one time, Interpol, the International Police Organization, estimated there were only about 100 cyber criminal geniuses who created this stuff. But their business model is they have these sites on the dark web where they sell and lease the sophisticated malware, support systems. It's incredible. And these sites have sales. They have, they look like regular retail sites for criminals. But this way, less sophisticated, technically sophisticated criminals are able to use this stuff. And banking apps are really a bad way. By the way, I know when I wrote about this for Forbes, there are some banks that were saying that you can use voice ID now rather than a password to get at your bank account. I see someone shaking a head. Me too. It's like, well, we have a saying in Boston, it's good luck to you and the Red Sox. No, don't use voice ID for anything like that. And malvertising. Malvertising is scams that are loaded and malware loaded in advertising that you see that comes up online. You can, though, one of the things you can do is the major browsers, Google, Chrome, Bing, Internet Explorer, and Firefox, will all let you adjust your settings to eliminate pop-up ads from appearing. And I really suggest that you do that. It will keep these malvertising ads from coming up. And the thing is, these malvertising ads will come up on legitimate sites. It can be the New York Times, it could be CNN, it could be whatever. And the reason for that is that these sites don't usually do their own advertising. They get it from third-party advertising agencies, and those agencies don't police them as well as they should. Zelle and Venmo. Easy ways to send money, but they're also easy ways to get scammed. And so one of the things with those is really only use them for friends and family. Don't use them for business purposes. And the thing is, the laws do not protect you when it comes to being scammed there as you would be, say, if you're using a credit card. If you're using a credit card, your liability is capped at $50. And in all the years that I've done work in this area, I've never yet seen a credit card company that charges you anything. On the other hand, with a debit card, and Zelle and Venmo, you're not protected. With a debit card, if you use your debit card, it's tied to your bank account. And if you don't report it immediately, like one of my daughters who shall remain Lisa, they can get at your entire bank account and empty it, and you have no recourse. So your debit card, it's best used as just an ATM card. We talked about the trust me, you can't trust anyone, and the addresses. Sometimes the domain name, the address that comes up when you get an email, looks like nothing that relates to, I'm getting something from Citizens Bank, and it's fredjones@stetson.edu. And that's for lazy scammers. And it's a botnet. What happens is, as a way of covering their tracks, the scammers hack into email accounts of people, and then they use those to send these out. And these botnets, which are large numbers of these, are sold and leased by the scammers online. But sometimes they'll have addresses that look legitimate. So you can look, and maybe it's an L, but it isn't really an L, it's a 1. And the one that really got me was the Cyrillic alphabet. And this, if you look closely on here, it's the A. The Cyrillic alphabet is used in Slavic languages. And I knew what I was looking for, and it took me minutes before I was able to distinguish the difference between an A. And so you cannot trust what you see as far as the email addresses. We do have some laws that do help us. The Senior Safe Act is one, and this was something that allows financial institutions, banks, and others to have their employees be able to help protect against the exploitation of seniors. And a lot of banks haven't done enough. And in New York, for instance, Attorney General Letitia James is suing Chase Bank. And what happened was there was a scam. An elderly woman had never wired money in her life, and she decides to wire her entire retirement account. So this is a red flag to the bank, but they just wired it. And here again, it was an emergency situation. She fell for it. We can blame the victim, but not as much as someone who should be looking out for us. So Senior Safe Act allows banks to be in a position where they can help protect us. FINRA is the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, and they're an independent regulator of securities firms. And when you get an account there, they will ask you for a trusted contact. So someone that if they see something that maybe doesn't seem right, they can delay it and talk to that other person for you. We also have the Senior Scams Prevention Advisory Group under new federal law that they're starting to do more research. All right, so I think it probably scared you a lot, probably. So now I'm going to tell you what you can do. So first thing is security software on all your devices, on your computer, on your phone. You got to keep them up to date, the lesson of Equifax. And your router hygiene. You want to change the default password. Use unique passwords. And that's one of the things. You need a unique password for all of your accounts. You can't, if you use the same password when it gets compromised in a data breach, they're going to be able to get it whatever. So you don't want that. So you can use a password manager, and they work well. I've just recently seen a couple of instances where the password manager companies have been hacked. So I prefer to look for my helping hand at the end of my own arm. So one thing I suggest is if you can't use any word in the dictionary as your password, because they have programs that'll break that instantaneously. So pick a sentence, like, I don't like passwords. It has capital letters, small letters, has an apostrophe. Then I'm going to throw 3 exclamation points at the end. That's my base. I don't like passwords. So my Amazon password will be, I don't like passwords, 3 exclamation points, AMA. So that way you're going to be able to have a unique password for each account and be something that you will remember. Use a guest network for your Internet of Things devices on your router and the whitelisting. Use your credit card, not your debit card. Use dual-factor authentication. Also one of the things that talked about was security, the security question. And we've seen if you can't remember your password, you answer your security question. So if a hacker is going to go in there, they may be able to answer your security question. So when it comes to answering your security question, for instance, Sarah Palin years ago had her email hacked because the security question was, where did I meet my husband? And I went on Wikipedia and found out met him at Wasilla High School. But the thing is, even if we think, well, I'm not famous, the information out there can be gleaned. So I use the, what's my mother's maiden name? Now, on the one hand, you might think that that's pretty easily found out, but not if you don't answer it honestly. And you don't have to answer it honestly. My mother's maiden name is Fire Truck. So it is so ridiculous, even with my brain cells going away, I'm still going to remember that, and no one is ever going to be able to answer my security question. You want to have a PIN to protect you from SIM swapping. You want to have a PIN to protect you from identity theft, from income tax identity theft. Also, if you haven't set one up, there's Social Security has a good service called My Social Security Account. And this allows you to set up an account with Social Security, and you can find out information from there, and any of your dealings with them you can do through this My Social Security account. It works really, really well. It's a two-edged sword. On the one hand, it does work well. What you don't want is the scammer to set one of these up before you do, because then they've decided they're going to change the bank to which your check is sent. So you definitely want to do that. You also want to do informed delivery. And informed delivery it's really good, and it's free, and it's from the Postal Service. And what they will do is you will be able to go online and see a photograph of all of the mail that's coming in to your mailbox the day before. So this is something that's helpful. Another thing that you definitely want to do, you don't want to, like certain wives who shall remain, Carol, put a check into a letter and put it into the mailbox and put the red flag up so that the scammer and identity thief who's cruising the neighborhood knows which mailboxes to go to get the check. Theft of mail has become a huge problem. And the identity thieves and scammers, they go through the mail, they take out the checks, and they wash them, or at least is what they used to do, just use common bleach, and make it payable to them, change the amount. But now, not as bad as you think, it's worse. Now they can scan the check and cleanly remove all of the writing on there and make a copy of the check with their information on there. And frankly, even not just from our own mailboxes, the blue post office boxes. If you're mailing a check, and I urge you to use online for paying, but if you are mailing a check, you definitely want to mail it from the post office. Credit freezes. This is something that, anyone for the credit reporting agencies? Well, I can't even use that language, don't want to offend. So here's the deal. So they always would say, no, you don't want to freeze your credit. And in the past, that was sometimes if you had to pay when you froze your credit, and then you'd pay when you unfreeze your credit. Well, when you unfreeze it, I'm going to lease a car, they need to see my credit report, and you unfreeze it, and then pay when you freeze it again. So that went out the window when Equifax had its debacle. So now it's free to freeze and unfreeze, and it's really simple to do. The credit reporting agencies said that you should put a fraud alert. And that way, no one will ever be able to misuse your account, because before using your credit report, they will check with you, which they never do. And there's no penalty. And the reason the credit reporting agencies want you to do that is if you freeze your credit, only if you unfreeze it can your information be obtained. And the credit reporting agencies make money by selling your information to all kinds of organizations. We agreed in the fine print, apparently, with that. So freeze your credit. It will help protect you from someone who, even if they have your Social Security number, is not going to be able to get at your credit report, not going to be able to buy large things using it. And another thing you can do is freeze children and grandchildren's credit reports. This is another thing that came into the law after the Equifax data breach, because until that time you couldn't freeze a child's credit. What do you need to freeze a child's credit for? The reason is the scammers will get the Social Security number of the child. They'll create a credit report. They'll run up debts. and the child doesn't find out till they're like 18 and applying for a car loan or a scholarship or something. So freeze the credit reports and monitor your credit. And at one time, you could only do this for free once a year at each of the 3 credit reporting agencies. Now, what you want to do is you can actually, during COVID, the credit reporting agencies, the only nice thing I'll say about them, had it so that you could do it weekly, which you don't need to do weekly, for free. But now you can do it weekly for free. I'd suggest do it once a month, but do it for each of the 3 because they are slightly different. So those are the best things that you can do. Now, I teach at Bentley University, but before I taught at Bentley, I taught at UMass Boston, Boston University, and Curry College. And this was years ago. It was before online learning and remote learning. But I never set foot on any of those campuses. I taught in the prison education program. I taught in the maximum security prisons in Massachusetts. So the reason I tell you is one of my students was serving 2 consecutive life sentences, which meant that when he died, he would start his second life sentence. I said, oh, I was kind of curious about that. He said, me too. I got sentenced and I yelled at the judge, how do you expect me to do 2 consecutive life sentences? He said, the judge leaned in and said, just do the best you can. So that's, with all this, really, if you follow these rules and do the best you can, you should be okay. By the way, in case you're still curious, the reason they do 2 consecutive life sentences is the prosecutors feel, okay, if I get one thrown out, I still got another one on him. So thank you. I'll be around if anyone has any personal questions about this.
Well, if you're like me, I have a list of, I think I have 14 things that I have to go home and do now. I'm taking notes along the way. My comment to everybody in the crowd is that there's a lot of information, and there's a lot of information unpackaged and how to apply it to you. My comment would be is that if you have questions, you want to go back over this material, please. We're again recording today's program. Send us your email address, write it on the piece of paper that we've got there on the notepads. Write that in there. We'll send you the link. It'll be on our website here in a couple of weeks. And you can digest this information as you go along and maybe apply a thing or 2 as you go through the process of making sure the world goes well for you and you're staying safe. Other items that we have there on the table, if you sign up for our newsletter, we do educational programs on a regular basis. This is one of our larger ones. We do typically education programs on a semi-annual or quarterly basis. So please feel free to sign up for our newsletter. If you sign up for that, we'll make sure you get those invitations for future items like Steve's program today. We appreciate everybody coming. We appreciate the opportunity to have some of your time this morning. We hope you walk away with some good information and able to learn a few items here or there. And we look forward to seeing you in future events. So thank you for coming. We appreciate your time.